I have just got done with Final Fantasy 1 of 6 in the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster collection for the PlayStation 4, and I've also gained the Platinum Trophy, and it gave me a bit of an idea. The gears were turning. I thought I'd make a review series called the Final Fantasy Platinum Series, where I may regret this as we go further along, but what I'm going to do is going to platinum every Final Fantasy, and this could go on forever. I will cross the bridges when I get to it, and then I'm going to review it here on the channel, so it's going to be like a review, a retrospective, and maybe a bit of a trophy guide and how it was for me as well. That's what I'm rolling with, so without further ado, what is up guys, Genesis 7 here. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. As always, I've got you covered with timestamps in the description below, so if there's a certain section you want to listen to, feel free to go ahead. If you want to speed up the video, listen to this at like 1.5 speed, 2.0 speed, whatever floats your boat, you can do that as well. All I ask is to support the channel by hitting the thumbs up button, and if you're liking the content, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to get involved in the conversation, the comment section below is there as well. So they're all things you can support the channel by doing. So let's talk about Final Fantasy 1. We're going to break this up into probably like 3 sections. I'm going to talk about Final Fantasy 1 in general, my experience with it, talk about the Pixel Remaster editions and how it kind of enhances the gameplay and if it's worth going to, and then probably going over the trophy as well and how that went for me. Literally just platinum it and I was like, let's do this. Let's try and commit to this video series. So Final Fantasy 1, this is still my favorite, by the way, version of it. So you can let me know in the comment section below if you agree with that. I know there's Dawns of Souls out there, and obviously the OG on the NES. But Final Fantasy 1, I think if you want to kind of experience or get to know Final Fantasy 1s through to 10, and you want the most basic experience with a bit of a grind there as well, Final Fantasy 1's probably go to. It's a very A to B kind of game. You're literally going from place, talking to people in a place, they'll mention another place, you go to that place, and then so on and so on, and there's items to collect to then give to other NPCs, and you kind of build yourself around that. As for your characters, you've got 4 characters. You can select the jobs as you wish. If you want to challenge yourself, you can go in with all 4 white mages. Me myself, I went with the warrior, I went with the thief, I went with the black mage and white mage, very generic. You got red mage and monk as well, so if there's anything that picks your fancy, go for it, experiment and have fun. And obviously these jobs through the story will evolve into kind of more experienced jobs where you can learn more abilities and have access to more spells as well. So that is the characters. The premise for the story, very basic. It will come very apparent to you what you need to do. Again, it's a very A to B kind of game. I think if you were to go play this on the NES, you probably wouldn't get along with it because it's definitely past its time. It's playable, but it's past its time, and a lot of people will say this is the go-to. But when it comes to accessibility, you want to pick it up on the Pixel Remaster on PlayStation 4, on Nintendo Switch, or on Steam, on mobile as well. So that is the most accessible version if you want to try it out. I think in a nutshell, Final Fantasy is a great introduction to the series. It's Final Fantasy 1, and what do you expect? And there isn't anything out of the blue that's like really good about. You get the gist of what Final Fantasy is with this game, and that is about it for Final Fantasy in a nutshell. Let's go over to the Pixel Remaster, and you know, this looked really nice. I played it on the 4K TV, and you're thinking, Jen, why are you talking about graphics for a Pixel game? Like, usually when you kind of play old games on bigger TVs, they look horrible, but the Pixel Remaster has been looked after with care when it comes to those pixel graphics, and it looks beautiful on the 4K TV and here on my smaller 1080p monitor as well. They've improved everything. Like, a lot of people complain about them diving into more color palettes, because obviously back on the NES and the SNES, when we get to the later games in this collection, used a set amount of color palettes and they made it work. This has free reign to do it. I don't really have a gripe with that, but some people do. I tell you one thing that people do have a gripe with, especially on the Steam version, and that was the font, me included. It's amazing how a font can be a off-putting factor to a game. But in this version, we have the pixel font. It's not the original font that you had in these games. It's a fixed font for this collection in particular, and I think it looks great. It's a pixel font. It goes with the Pixel Remaster. It's in that kind of world of pixels. That's what you wanted, and we've got it, and that is fantastic. This version is a lot more accessible in regards to auto-saving, so usually if you were not to use any of the boosts that we'll talk about in just a second, and you want to play it naturally and get the experience naturally, get the guild naturally, and grind as naturally as you can, you have the autosave system, which can be a lifesaver, because you can go up to a boss and you will die. If you have not saved the game in the OG versions, you will have to go back to where you last saved, and that could be forever ago. I think we can all have flashbacks of those gaming sessions with any game where we forgot to save, went in very confident to a boss and we lost. Very frustrating. Controllers may have been broke. Not in this instance, because we have the autosave, which is fantastic. Flash forward to them boosts that we're talking about. These are really, really good. In Final Fantasy 1 in particular, you have the turning the encounters on and off, which I found out that you can just switch on the fly by pressing in the right analog stick. So there's a tip there for you. Essentially, it does what it says on the tin. Encounters on or off. We have a booster for experience, so you can have ×0, ×0.5, the natural experience gain, ×2 and ×4. That can be really good for a majority of reasons, and we'll go back into that in a second. Gil is very much the same. You got 0, 0.5, 1, 2, and 4. And that's everything for your boost in a nutshell. So the way this is great for any kind of playstyles, that Final Fantasy 1 is a grindy game. There will be a part of the game where you will need to grind to be able to at least beat these bosses smoothly. So the option to get a bit more experience to speed up that process is great, because in Final Fantasy games, especially these classics, the majority of your time is spent grinding. So if you want to speed that process up, or if you're going into this for your first time and you may just want to see what the story is about, or get just a little bit of a taste of the battle system, then you can flip that experience up and get leveled more frequently, and that can help you out tremendously. I admittedly used it a few times here and there just so I could speed the process up so I could get through Final Fantasy 1, but the challenge is there if you want to get it less. 0.5, no experience, a level 1 run, it's all there if you need it, and it's the same for the Gil. Gil is very precious in Final Fantasy 1, it's very hard to grind for, so if you want to get access to the items in a town when you get into that town, then feel free to flip that up. I kept it as normal as I could. I think I did it a few times just so I could get the last couple of spells I needed. Don't shoot me, but I did that just to get what I needed. All right, guys, you got to understand this is an old game, and these boosts are very, very nice to have. But another one is the encounters, the first thing that we mentioned. So when you go into a couple of the first dungeons, there are going to be places that you can't access the items, and that will come into the trophy talk as well. Eventually, a part of the game, you'll get an item to go back to these dungeons, and usually you just want to get those items and get back out of the dungeon. So having the ability to switch the encounters on and off with the R3 button is very, very nice. Also, if you click in the L3 button, you can toggle your walk and run, if you didn't know. I was just messing around with the controller, seeing what everything did, and that's everything I discovered. Another quality of life thing just to mention and top off our Pixel Remaster kind of look is the map. The map is incredibly helpful, especially if you're trying to hunt down items and hidden areas, or areas that you didn't know existed in a town or in a dungeon. Essentially, you got a map in the top right corner, and if you open that map, you can get a list of all the places you've visited, and you'll have a counter with all the treasure chests that you've opened. And if it's a town, it'll tell you what kind of shops are there. It's really, really nice quality of life, just so you can open it, see what you need, and go get what you need. And one last thing that comes with the Pixel Remaster Collection, you'll find it in the menu, is you've got the music player, which has the ability to play the classic music that is an addition with these console versions. You can go through that and listen to the classic 8-bit soundtrack, or you can listen to the remastered soundtrack. Obviously, I played this through the remastered soundtrack because I've listened to the classic many times, so it's nice to have a bit of a refresh on some of these tracks. And some extra tracks are included as well that they've used for boss battles. You've also got an art gallery, so if you're interested to see kind of some of the concept art or just art on the characters and the places that you visited in Final Fantasy 1, that is all there. And then there's the bestiary, which is really nice. It's going to be very vital for a set of trophies that you need. But if you visit the bestiary, which is in the menu as well, it's in your configuration menu, but if you visit it in the main menu, you have this interactive map where you can kind of travel across the world of Final Fantasy 1 and you can see where all these monsters spawn as you found them. So if there's somewhere that has a question mark, you know, in that area, you need to go find a monster to fill that all out. I think it's a really nice thing to have this interactive map. Let's move on and finish off with the trophies though. I think in a nutshell, this trophy list is pretty easy. It's probably going to be the easiest of the 6 games for us all to do. There's not really anything that's missable. There's just one trophy you may have trouble with, and that is like completing the bestiary, because there's one enemy, just one enemy, that is very frustrating. It's on the Flying Fortress on the 5th floor. You go up and down that bridge many times. You want to come across that war mech. The war mech gives great experience, but it's so rare. It can be very frustrating. Luckily for me, as I was doing it this morning, it came pretty soon to me. I think I had about 20-25 encounters. But it's a great way to grind if you're doing it traditionally, so if you've got none of the boosts on. So it's not that missable. It just can be quite frustrating. Apart from that, everything else is story beats, treasure chests, and there's nothing that's missable. You can go back to every single location that you've been to previously, which is nice in this game. It will definitely change as we go further. Talk about that when we get to them games. But the trophy list, very easy platinum as long as you put in the time. Thoroughly enjoyed Final Fantasy 1 and revisiting it. Will I revisit again? Probably not anytime soon, unless there's something miraculous that comes out, like a 3D remake or something crazy like that. But Final Fantasy 1, great entry to the franchise if you want to see what it is at its roots. Again, this is very accessible for everyone to play. You can pick it on the PlayStation Store, Nintendo eShop, or I don't think you can pick it up physically at the moment. Maybe that'll change, but we'll see. I'm sure you can go on eBay and have a look at some of those. But yeah, it's the most accessible way to play Final Fantasy 1, and I have a great time doing it. So this has been like episode 1 of this like platinum series that I've dove myself into. Final Fantasy 2 is up next. I'm going to start that up in a minute. No time frame to when these videos are going to be going up. I'm just going to roll with it, and then after we get done with 6 and then we go to 7, 8 and 9, you can expect longer breaks before there, and probably regret from me committing to a platinum series of Final Fantasy. So thank you for watching. I appreciate your time, and until next time guys, I'll catch you on the flip side.